Hey everyone, this is the Black Manga Critic here with another video for the channel. Now basically this is going to be a discussion of sort of why I believe that Dragon Ball Super, at least the Super Saiyan transformations, are particularly hollow, and why the Super Saiyan transformations in Dragon Ball Z weren't. So before I get into the discussion, just want to say to like, comment, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Hit me up on Twitter, follow me on Twitter, hit me up on Facebook, follow me on, well not follow, but like the page on Facebook, and that's basically it. So, to get into the sort of discussion part of this video, right, we have to sort of talk about, I think first, about why the Super Saiyan transformations, right, the particular transformations within Dragon Ball Z held weight and mattered, right? So if we're looking at, let's say the three sort of basic, right, transformations, right, we're going to look at the initial Super Saiyan transformation, Super Saiyan Grade 5 or Super Saiyan 2, right? And Super Saiyan 3, right? So, if we're looking at the first Super Saiyan transformation, we understand that at that point, the concept of the Super Saiyan was only really mentioned briefly, right? By Vegeta. So, if we're looking at that point, we have to understand how the Super Saiyan transformation that's done by Goku works on a sort of surface level and a sort of figurative level, right? So if we're looking at the surface level, basically we know that Frieza's very strong. He's so strong that he's one of the few villains I think in Dragon Ball in the Dragon Ball series that really struck fear into me, even as a viewer, and I think a lot of other viewers, and I think that's why he's so popular, right? So at that point, before the Super Saiyan transformation, right, by Goku, we understand that there's no one that can beat him. Goku has pretty much almost no shot unless he can come up with 80 other spirit bombs, right, of the same size as what he created, right, to try to beat Frieza. So the Super Saiyan transformation at the very surface level represents the fact that he can beat Frieza, right, that he can overpower Frieza. So on a figurative level, it represents the curb stomping of both Frieza's racist ideology, right, and prejudice ideology, right, and bigoted ideology, right. It represents the fact that Frieza is, his tyrannical reign is going to end, right? And it also represents the fact that Goku, who is often seen to be a lower class individual, has reached sort of the pinnacle of power at that point in the manga and the anime, right? So there are a whole bunch of things going on there, right? And also, the last thing is that it represents a shift in Goku's character's temperament, right? So Goku is normally a fun-loving guy, and he's ha ha ha, right? And that's all, and he loves to fight, for sport and stuff like that, and he wants to be stronger. But at that point, that's not what it's about. It's all about beating the living crap out of Frieza, hopefully, ending his life, and basically avenging his friends, right? This is something that this is not Goku, right? We can tell Goku is particularly angry. He can't control himself. He's making decisions that are particularly ridiculous, right? All for the sake of beating down the individual that killed his friend, right? Krillin, right? So that's what's going on there. If we're looking at Super Saiyan 2, right, or Super Saiyan Grade 5, we are looking at Gohan as another character that, right, on the surface is stronger than the strongest being at that point in time, which is Cell, right? He's stronger than Cell. Well, he's not stronger than Cell before the transformation, right? And we understand that there is no way that he is going to beat Cell unless something happens, right? So in some ways we're expecting a transformation because it's been hinted at, right? By Gohan in his sort of speech to Cell, and by Cell because he's pushing and prodding him to get that transformation. So when it does happen, it represents a few things, right? At that point in the story, it represents that Gohan is the strongest known being in the universe. Right? He's stronger than Cell. It represents, again, the crushing of Cell's own ideology and dogma, which is basically very sort of flat in a lot of ways. He's just I'm better than everyone else, so everyone else has to die, right? That's basically his ideology. It's very basic, but Gohan basically curb stomps that too. So basically, it represents that, the curb stomping of Cell's particular ideology. It represents the fact that Gohan is now the strongest being in the known universe, and now the protector of the Earth, right? Because at that right when Gohan beats Cell, Goku's already died. So at that point, we know that the reins have been sort of moved to have been given to Gohan, right? And the Super Saiyan 2 transformation also represents a character shift in Gohan, in that Gohan understands at this point that if he is going to save people, right? And this is also, even his initial Super Saiyan transformation, right, has that weight behind it. But Super Saiyan 2 brings that to a totally new level. At some point, he represents it. He realizes that during the Super Saiyan transformation, right, his own. But the Super Saiyan 2 transformation is like almost a willful acknowledgement of the fact that he has to do this from now on, right? That like from now on, he has to be strong enough to protect everyone. And now he is the protector of the Earth. So that's basically everything, right? Like also the fact that his temperament has shifted, right, in the same ways that that Goku shifted during Frieza, right? Goku basically prolongs that battle because I think at some point Goku really understands that he could just kill Frieza anytime he wants to, and in the same breath, Gohan also understands that he could pretty much kill and demolish Cell at any point in time, but he doesn't. So that Super Saiyan 2 transformation really represents not only a shift in the fact that Gohan understands that he has to be the one to protect everyone, but it also represents the fact that he has the power to do so, and because he has the power to do so, he can pretty much do whatever the hell he wants. No one can stop him at that point. So that's everything that's going on with Super Saiyan Grade 5 or Super Saiyan 2. If we're looking at Super Saiyan 3, right? Looking at Super Saiyan 3, that the one thing that I can think of is the way in which the Super Saiyan 3 transformation represents the fact that Goku is no longer in a real position to be the hero in the way that he normally is, right? Not on his own power necessarily. So at that point, the only reason that they stop Kid Buu, right, is because he's fought him for a while, but Kid Buu's not even really tired. So what happens basically is that, right, the universe has to send Goku their power, right, and even that's not necessarily enough. They have to revive his own power using the Dragon Balls on top of the Spirit Bomb, right? Like they have to use his power on top of the Spirit Bomb to beat Kid Buu. So the Super Saiyan 3 transformation really represents the fact that that transformation isn't good enough to beat the villain that appears, right? Goku needs more help. So he is not he's dead, right? And even when they sort of revive him, right? Like he's not enough anymore. So the Super Saiyan 3 transformation really sort of represents the way in which the Super Saiyan transformation is almost kind of not outdated, but it's going out, right? Like sort of going out of style. It's like, this isn't enough, man. These villains, like the villains are very strong. And Kid Buu is like, he's just too strong. Like it's not enough. So the Super Saiyan 3 transformation, I think, even in its sort of the way that it consumes ki, right, represents a way in which, like, yes, it is very powerful, but it is not enough to stop, let's say, the villain of the week or whatever. So I think that's what Super Saiyan 3 represents in a sense. And that's just kind of like the way that I think about Super Saiyan 3. I'm not saying that I'm exactly right about that or anything like that. But, I'd like to hear your comments about how you feel about the Super Saiyan 3 transformation and what sort of weight it held. Because I think the only weight that it held was that it, sort of represented a way in which Goku and the Super Saiyan transformation were kind of like outdated in the ways that they were trying to beat these villains. So that's all I have to say about those 3 Super Saiyan transformations within Dragon Ball Z. If we're looking at Dragon Ball Super, none of that's there. There's no metaphoric content. There's no figurative language. There's no real meaning. The stakes aren't even there, right? Like, there's no reason for them to get stronger unnecessarily, right? Like, other than to sort of just beat the villain of the week. These villains are very much the villains of the week, right? Zamasu is the villain of the week. Frieza is the villain of the week because he already died, right? And he's just coming back. And this universe survival arc is very much a amalgamation of villains of the week, right? And not even villains. They're just people that are just like, well, what the fuck are you doing, Goku? So, when we look at the Super Saiyan transformations in Dragon Ball Super, we see that if we're looking at the Super Saiyan God transformation, that doesn't represent shit. There's like history there and stuff like that, but nobody cares about the history. What could have happened is that Vegeta could have become the Super Saiyan God, and that would have, I think, held a little bit more weight because Vegeta holds the Saiyan race in such a high regard, and Goku is kind of like whatever about the Saiyan race, So it's an odd thing like to happen, right? So it doesn't really hold any particular weight, right? And there aren't really any stakes because we understand that Beerus is not going to destroy the Earth. There's no real way of that happening in terms of the narrative and plot and things of that nature, right? In terms of the story going on. So we understand that, like, the Earth's not going to be destroyed, right? And in terms of sort of, like, just the ability and the transformation by like, oh, all 5 people come together and they give Goku the power. Like, that doesn't mean anything. It's not particularly important to the narrative, to the plot, or like to the story, in terms of, you know, the stakes and our enjoyment and stuff like that. It's like, you know, it's whatever. It's very hollow. It doesn't hold any weight. Goku doesn't change his personality or anything like that. There's no real shift of power scaling or anything like that. It's just like Goku's still weaker than Beerus, and he's still weaker than all the people that he's weaker than, right? If you're looking at the Super Saiyan God transformation, it's the same thing. He's still weaker than the people that he's weaker than. And it's almost an insult to injury, because the Super Saiyan God transformation is already very hollow, but the Super Saiyan Blue transformation, right, is even more hollow, if that's possible. It's almost like, if I had to use a sort of like an analogy, it would be like the Super Saiyan God transformation is sort of like this little hole, right? It's hollow. There's no space in between it, right? And then the Super Saiyan Blue transformation is kind of like this hole, right? But it's still hollow, right? It's still hollow. There's not really any substance to it. It's just a bigger hole. So that's kind of how I feel about the Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan God, and Super Saiyan Blue transformation. And, you know, a lot of that has to do with the story. There's no real stakes in these stories, and these arcs. There are no real stakes to like to anything, right? And the Super Saiyan transformations don't represent anything except for the fact that they train really hard. But like, that's like crap. And one thing that I want to say in terms of just the general sort of Dragon Ball Super and Super Saiyan transformations and stuff like that, and Dragon Ball Z and Super Saiyan transformations, is that Dragon Ball Z understood that it was a battle shonen, right? If you are a battle shonen, you have to have transformations that have figurative language and metaphoric content and meaning. If you don't have transformations that don't do at least that, your manga's probably gonna suck, and it probably sucks, right? And I'm trying to think of like manga that have some like well, Dragon Ball Super, right? That's a manga that like, it sucks. It's a sucky manga. It's a sucky TV show in terms of the ways that it does like metaphor and meaning and stuff like that, right? And stakes. It doesn't do. They don't like Dragon Ball Super. Both the anime and the manga don't do that particularly well at all. So that's why it's not, it's not nearly as good as other like battle shonen manga, right? Like Hunter x Hunter, or even like Naruto, and right, like, and I can think of Boku no Hero, The Promised Neverland, stuff like that, right? Like, well, not The Promised Neverland because they aren't really transformations in that, but Boku no Hero, Naruto, Toriko, right? The list, Hunter x Hunter, the list goes on and on. So that's basically what I got to say about the Super Saiyan transformations and why they're hollow, right, within Dragon Ball Super, and why they necessarily weren't in Dragon Ball Z. So, I think that, and I guess one more thing that I want to say is that I think that the problems of Dragon Ball Super really sort of stem from the way that Dragon Ball Z ended. I mean, like, I don't know how many people really love the ending of Dragon Ball Z, right? It felt kind of hollow. It felt like we went in one big circle. Dragon Ball Super feels like a circle jerk. You know what I mean? Like, in a lot of ways. So, that's all I'm going to say about that. I want to end this video, and I'm the Black Manga Critic, here with a video for the channel, and I'm out.